הדובר הבא הוא כן אברמוביץ', איש שלא מתעייף, מרצה ממקום למקום איך לקדם, לשמור ולהציל את ארץ ישראל ועם ישראל. בכמה זמן שהוא יקבל, תמיד ידע להביא את הרעיון. כן, הוא שותף וידיד אמת לריבונות, לעוז וגאון. כן, בבקשה.
Our next speaker, one second, we'll translate, is Ken Abramowitz, a person who never gets tired from passing on the message. You allow me, Judith, to ask one sentence what you said in English. Once somebody told us that if you want a message to get into your head, you have to repeat it all the time. It's tiring, but Ken never gets tired. He passes on his message with the same, as if it's the first time that he gives this speech, and every time updates it. And what Judith says is also amazing. Ken says he can give the speech in 1 minute, in 15 minutes, in 1 hour, 2 hours. He's unbelievable. Ken is a real partner. He's a real partner in the sovereignty and women green. And we want to say thank you for everything, for your support, your partnership, and Vakasha. And today, Ken has 15 minutes. Oh, 1 second. And we, of course, also appoint you the sovereignty honoree. Again, heartfelt gratitude and appreciation, thanks to the dedication of people like you to the people and the land of Israel. The application of sovereignty in Judea and Samaria is gaining momentum. May we be privileged, with the help of the Almighty, to go from strength to strength. The time has come for sovereignty.
Thank you very much, Nadia and Yehudit, and thank you for all that you do. It's very important to have grassroots movements in Israel to fill the void of a government that sometimes forgets what it has to do. It's great to see everybody here today. I'm going to give 2 talks, a 5-minute and a 10-minute, and but they're interrelated. You'll see that. And I'm going to first. Well, overall, I'm going to discuss how to save Western civilization, what's wrong in the world, and how to fix it in 15 minutes without blowing everybody up. So if I could blow everybody, all the bad guys up, I could give the speech in 1 minute. But so I'm going to ask a question, and so the first 5 minutes will be audience participation. So I'm going to ask a question, and then I want everybody to help answer it. So here's the question. We're fighting a war for our existence against 6 enemies, physical and cultural. There's 2 types of enemies. Who are we? Who are they? And what should we do about it? So let me repeat. We're fighting a war for our existence against 6 enemies, physical and cultural. Who are we? Who are they? And what should we do about it? Now, if I asked this question in 1942, everyone would say, what a silly question. We are the US and Europe at that time. They are Germany and Japan. And what should we do about it? We should drop bombs on Germany and Japan till they unconditionally surrender. Then we win and they lose. Okay, so that was obvious in 1942. So I'm going to ask it again. Who are we? Who are they? And what should we do about it? So let's start first. Who are we? We're fighting a war for our existence. Who are we? So anyone want to tell me who we are? Or, yes?
We're the Jewish people. We've been here for 3,300 years. We think we should stay here for another 3,300 years. But the rest of the world may not agree with us.
Okay, so here, we're the Jewish people. That's correct, but we're bigger than that. Who else are we?
Western civilization.
Well, yes, but anybody else want to say anything about who are we? We're fighting a war for our existence. Who are we?
I'm fighting a war against the Muslims, and we are the big rock here, holding it, holding their progression. Let me put it that way.
Okay, so now we have the enemies being, quotes, the Muslims, and which I'll refine a little bit. And still we're Israel. Anybody else want to talk about who we are or who they are? Yes?
We are the originators of an incredible ethical system called the Asharat, the 10 Commandments.
Okay, very good. Judaism is the foundation of Western civilization from 3,800 years ago when Abraham announced that paganism is a false narrative, which was quite a statement for someone to make when 99% of the people were pagans. And 100% of the 99% had knives, spears, and swords. So Abraham was a very brave person. Anyone else want to say anything about who we are or who they are?
Free world.
Free world, yes. Yes, the free world. I'll amplify on that in 1 minute. Yes?
All these things about free will and democracy and everything can all change if all they became democrats, if they became the free will. We believe that we were the people that God brought to this area. And that's what makes us different, whatever happens.
Sure, sure. Right, because we collectively are the indigenous people here. Any other last comment or two? Yes?
I will say who we are, and I will start to define it, but by who is the others. The others are not opposing only Jewish and Judaism. They're opposing the free world or people who believe in freedom. We are people who believe in freedom, which does not contradict the core element of identity.
Right. Okay, right. So we collectively are the free world, and I'll amplify on that in 1 minute. Yes?
I think if you look historically, from the very beginning, from Egypt through Greece and Rome and through the Nazis, Soviets, and the Iranians, in every instance, these great powers wanted to rule everything with evil, always targeted the best of humanity, the Jews. There's an uncanny historical phenomena which continues from then to this very day.
Right. So what you're saying is we're fighting, it's a good versus evil. So we're good and they're evil.
To identify them, we can just look at history and today.
Yes. No, that's a good analysis. Yes?
The others are traitors among us, like J Street and the New Israel Fund.
Yes. Well, we have both. We have enemies both externally and internally. That's they. We'll get into that in a minute. Yes?
Yeah, so no, we have to encapsulate that idea under the umbrella of replacement. People who hold the idea of replacement theology. So that is also the thing. Historically, the Christians, missionaries like that, and now Muslims and the Nazis, and all their reason for trying to take power is replacement theology.
Yes, the forces of evil want to destroy the forces of good. Replace the forces of good. Yes?
I think God has a plan, and I think He chose us to help carry forth this plan. And the blueprint for it is the Torah. And that's who we are. We're upholding this particular plan.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
Amen. Covenant people, covenant, the land was deeded to the people in the covenant.
Okay, great. So last comment.
Yeah,
Yes?
Take like the more of a global perspective, good and evil. You have who's on the evil side, the dictators, all these fascists, whatever. And on the other side is the liberal Western democracies, which comes from Judaism, whatever you want to say, that's driving it. So in order for the world to continue having this liberal Western democracy, the Jews are generally the ones that bring it in and push it and are advocates for it first and foremost. So these people, the good against evil, they're going against the Jews in order to drop the leaders, and then everybody else will kind of fall by the wayside.
Well, Judaism is the foundation of Western civilization. So if you can destroy the foundation, then Western civilization falls. Yes?
And it's a little simpler. Hashem offered the Torah to many people. We are the ones who accept. We're the only ones who accept.
Right? Yes? Well, yes. Last question, anybody? Okay, so let me try to put it all together. I'm going to define we, and then I'm going to define them, and then I'm going to give you some ideas of what to do about it. We are Western civilization. So what do I mean by that? We are, if you look, I'm going to do it in terms of countries, I'll do it in terms of religions. In terms of countries, we are Israel, America, Europe, South America. I include India, even though it's not traditionally considered part of Western civilization because they think like us. Japan, half of Africa, the Christian half of Africa, Australia, New Zealand. So we are Western civilization. Now, there are some, let's do it in terms of religions. So we collectively are Jewish, we're Christian. Hindu. In Japan, Shinto. And we're all a little different, but the way I look at it, we're 90% the same. We disagree on 10%. 90% is close enough to me, and that's Western civilization. And by the way, some Muslim countries are trying in their own way to join Western civilization. So in the last 2 years, I was in Morocco, in Egypt, and in the Emirates. And in their own way, they're trying to join Western civilization. They can't do it overnight, but they're trying. So Muslims can also be in Western civilization. Now then, the question is, who are the enemies of Western civilization? Well, there are 6 enemies that I've identified. Anyone want to help me identify the 6 enemies, external enemies of Western civilization? Some of you mentioned some of them already. The forces, who are the forces of evil in the world? Islamists. Well, I call it political Islam. The politicization of a religion. Islam, in my mind, is a 20% religion, 80% political movement. The 20% is protected by any Western country, protects the right of you or me to believe whatever we believe. But we don't have the right to force somebody else to believe what we believe, and that's what I call political Islam. Yes?
Moral relativism.
Yes, that would be an internal cultural enemy of the left. And, but right now I'm looking for external enemies, because when I give my other talk, we'll talk about internal enemies. So just external enemies. George Soros would be a cultural enemy of the left. Yes, but I'm focused for this 2 minutes, 1 minute, on external enemies.
I think you should include India in that, because India has really made it very clear that they are an ally of Western civilization and Israel.
Yes, yes, I thought I mentioned India. I said it's not traditionally part of Western civilization, but because they're 90% similar in our thinking, that's close enough for me, and so I include them in Western civilization.
Communism?
So, communism, well, there's 2 countries that were formerly communist that are now, I would say, half communist, half normal. They're in transition of sorts, and that would be Russia and China. They would be 2 of the 6 enemies of Western civilization, but they're half enemies of Western civilization. They're also, in other ways, trying to join Western civilization, but call them adversaries. But that's 2. Now I need 4 more enemies of Western civilization. The church, well, right now there's a pope who, how that pope got elected, I have no idea. And, but in general, Christians and Jews are basically a partnership of Western civilization. Jews being the foundation, and then Jesus 1,800 years later. And the Judeo-Christian culture, tradition, and philosophy is what I call Western civilization. Now, historically, Christians have been enemies of the Jews. Never should have been enemies of the Jews. We should never have fought among each other, but we did do that. But not for long. It was only for about 2,000 years. And so, but now we're friends. There's no reason to be, one of the reasons I don't like being in an adversarial relationship with Russia is Russia's Christian. America's Christian. Christian countries shouldn't fight with each other, and Jews shouldn't fight with each other, and Jews and Christians shouldn't fight.
The church from Rome is different from the Orthodox Church in Russia. I'm talking about Roman Catholicism.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call it an enemy of Western civilization. The Christians have Judeo values as the foundation. Yeah, sure. Look, yeah, okay. So let me just finish this point. A quick question, comment in the back.
Totalitarianism, as represented in Russia and China today.
Yes, totalitarianism. Western civilization has democracies. Enemies of Western civilization have dictatorships. So, anyways, to conclude the point, one last point.
I would say one word, Amalek.
Amalek
and school who is against all these ideas.
Sure. So Amalek today I call political Islam, the politicization of a religion. Political Islam should be declared illegal. There's 4 political Islam terror organizations that have promised to take over the world and kill everybody in Western civilization. Or as they would all agree, Christians, Jews, and Hindus will convert to Islam or we're going to kill them. Who are the 4 worldwide terror organizations? Iran, #1 terror organization in the world, pretending to be a country. It's actually a terror organization that took over a country. Number 2, Muslim Brotherhood, financed by Turkey and Qatar, half friends, half enemies of America, dedicated to world domination. Number 3, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, hundreds of affiliates around the world. And number 4, the Saudi Wahhabis, who are halfway flipping, so to speak, towards Western civilization, a very important trend. We should encourage them to completely flip, so to speak, towards Western civilization. So you put it together, those are the 6 enemies of Western civilization. Be political Islam, the 4 enemies, and Russia and China are complicit, so to speak, with the 4 enemies. Now the question is, what should we do about it? So let me go to my other talk, and now you all should have handouts in front of you. Raise your hand if you don't have a handout.
Yeah. Where do you place North Korea in these 6?
North Korea is married to Iran. So North Korea and Iran, when I say political Islam and their friends. So North Korea would be a friend of Iran, and it's evil. And in fact, Iran is financing the North Korea nuclear project, I hear, to about $2 to $3 billion a year, which was not covered in the Iran agreement, which, by the way, Iran never signed. So let's go. Now, does everybody have a handout on how to save Western civilization? If you don't raise your hand, then someone will give you one. Okay. Yes. Okay. So first, I'll start at the bottom of the page, affiliated relationships. I'm the founder of a website to save Western civilization called Save the West, if you couldn't guess. You should all, thanks very much. You should all look at my website. You can subscribe. All you have to do is put your email address in. I'm also close to a lot of affiliated relationships, like Citizens for National Security, Americans for Safe Israel. I have my red T-shirt from AFSI underneath my shirt. And there's about 10 other organizations that I'm directly involved with. And at the bottom of the page, I included DEPCA. DEPCA is my favorite Israeli website. You should all look at it. It takes 2 minutes to look at it, give you a quick update of what's...
What page are you on?
The cover page. The title page, first page. You need some help, young man? Yeah, okay. So, because I give courses on remedial speech listening. So I'll go through that another day with you. Okay, so the key, half of the speech I already gave, and now let's go through the other half. The key problem is Western civilization is under attack from the outside and inside. And the key solution is we have to do 3 things at the same time: grow the economy, protect our culture, protect us physically. These are the 3 building blocks of any society. And so when I hear a politician speak, I pretend I'm a professor and I give them grades, and you should give them grades also. When you hear someone speak, do they have any ideas how to grow an economy? Do they have any ideas how to protect the culture of the population? And can they protect people physically? Israel, for example, I give grades of approximately, since you use numbers here, in America we use letters, but for grades I would give the government an 8, an 8, and an 8. In a democracy, it's very hard to get a 9 or a 10. There's improvements that could be done for each of those 3 things. The government's not perfect, but you have a good government run by normal people, and we have to encourage them to be a little better. A little better on the economics, a little better on the culture, as Women in Green are a good example, and a better job protecting people physically. And now America gets an 8, a 7, and a 6, which averages to a 7. Israel averages to an 8. In Europe, for example, gets a 7, a 5, and a 5, which averages to a 6. So Europe is failing, America and Israel are strong, and it would be nice if Europe emulated Israel in America. Instead of criticizing Israel in America, Europe should follow in the footsteps of Israel and America if it wants to save itself. Okay, so let's look at a few slides in 5 minutes and I will stop. First page, page 2. Page 2. Page 2. Everyone, and it's color-coded to make it easy. Everybody here is yellow. Yellow is for rational centrists. That means you're normal people. You believe in the basic laws of Israel, or in America we call it the Constitution and Bill of Rights, and you believe in Torah, or the word Bible, and together, those two are the qualifications to be yellow or rational centrist. And congratulations, you joined the other 1/3 of the people in the world who are normal. You should all feel proud of yourself. Unfortunately, 2/3 of the people are not normal. And that's our challenge. 2/3 of the people believe in 4 false narratives. Or my grandmother would say, boobamises. What are the 4 big boobamises of today? So I color code them. The left, the Reds, the socialists, the communists, the progressives, they believe that the government is God. We don't need God because God does not hand out subsidy checks, but the government does. So the government, I call it the golden calf, but the government is God. That's a false narrative. They do not believe in individuals. Yellow believe in the primary role of the individual. The Reds believe in the primary role of the government. Then we have the blues, who believe in worldwide government, that the United Nations in New York or the EU in Brussels has so many smart people, they should tell Israel how to behave. Because the people in Israel are so stupid, they do not know how to behave. But in Brussels, they're so smart, so Brussels will tell the people of Israel how to behave. Or the people in America how to behave. That's a false narrative. The people of Israel should tell the people of Israel how to behave. And so the government should be as low down as possible, not as high up as possible. Then we have the whites, the isolationists. These are not evil people. They just think that there's mountains and there's oceans and there's and rivers, and this protects us from bad guys. So therefore, we do not need a strong army. We do not need a strong police force because the gods, like in pagan time, the gods of the oceans will protect us. It's a false narrative because terrorists know how to swim and they can fly and they can take boats. And then we have green, which is political Islam, which we discussed, the 4 worldwide terror organizations. And they believe that Allah is God, but Allah is not our God. They call us Satan, so I call them Satan. So political Islam is belief in Satan and belief in the power of God. It's really the power of government. Islam means submission. So we're supposed to submit to the will of Allah, and now you know why the political Islam and the Reds work together, because they think alike. The Reds want the government to take over to implement their version of communism, socialism, and the Greens want to take over to implement their form of Islamism, and the 2 of them are working together. It's called the Red-Green Alliance. So the question is, in 50 years, 50 years, what percentage of the people will be yellow? It's right now, it's 1/3. Will it be higher than 1/3, lower than 1/3? So I'm going to have a little vote in 1 minute. In 1 minute, you're going to vote on this. So what I did, before I forecast the future, I go back into the past. So go to the next page, page 3. Page 3. So I went back into time 3,800 years ago. I actually had a dream 2 or 3 years ago. And I dreamt that Abraham came back to life for 1 day. I immediately called his office to get an appointment. And I asked for 10 minutes. I got a 10-minute appointment with Abraham. And I said I showed him page 2. And I said, Abraham, 33% of the people are yellow today. What was it 3,800 years ago? And he said to me it was 1%. So you can see page 3, pretend that the yellow is 1%. So he said to me it was 1%. Me, my family, my tribe, my friends. Yes?
This is why you gave me the name Abramowitz?
That's right. That's right. He gave me that name in my dream. And so, and you can see on page 3, Abraham was surrounded by pagans, various flavors of pagan. The color code does not mean anything here. So I asked him one more question before I woke up. So I said to Abraham, are you proud of us? In 3,800 years, we went from 1% yellow to 33% yellow. Are you proud of us? And he said to me, you had 3,800 years, you could have done better than that. And then I woke up and said, oh, I have to make a page about this, and the next morning, this page resulted. So now I'm going to ask the question again. I want you to vote. I just went through history. Now let's go 50 years in the future. Will the yellows be higher than 1/3 in 50 years, 2 generations, or lower? Who thinks higher? More yellows, more yellows. Who thinks lower? And who, and, okay, so it was roughly 50% said higher, about 20%, let's say, said lower, and 30% did not vote. So I want to congratulate everybody here. You're all right. If we get our act together and do what we're supposed to do, the yellows are going up. If we collectively do not do what we're supposed to do, we as individuals, we as organizations, we as countries, the yellows are going down. And for those of you who did not vote because you were confused, you are right to be confused because you have no idea whether we, Western civilization, will get our act together or not get our act together, because we have to make that decision and we have not made it yet. So now I'm going to give you the answer. I'm going to show, and I'm going to stop in 1 minute. I'm going to give you the answer of what life will look like in 50 years. Go to page, the big yellow page, page 6, page 6. I'm going to show you the good news and bad news, page 6. This is the one with the big, big yellow page, big, big yellow. Not green, yellow, yellow page. Okay. And so if we do what we have to do, we as individuals, organizations, countries, the yellow will go from 1/3 to 2/3, and everybody will join us. Think of it as the Cold War model. In the Cold War model, we did not kill millions of people. The communists killed millions of their own people, but we, the West, did not kill them. We just stayed strong economically, culturally, and physically. And they realized that they had lost the war. And the bad guys realized that they did not have a strong economy, they did not have a strong culture, they did not have strong physical capabilities to compete with America, and they surrendered. It was not a surrender like in World War II, but in effect, China and Russia moved towards us. It became, let's say, half normal. They still have more to do. And now, there's also a violent way to get people to join you, and that's World War II. And in World War II, Germany and Japan became yellow because we killed 60 million people and drove them to unconditional surrender. So there's 2 models of the future. Right now, we're in World War III, and the question is, will it be like World War II? In other words, will there be a violent ending with 60 million dead people? Or will it be like the Cold War, where the bad guys just surrender because they realize they can't compete? And I can't tell you the answer right now. It can go either way, but I'm hoping it's the Cold War model. I hope that Israel and America, in particular, stay strong and let the bad guys realize they should join us rather than we should join them. Now, let me just conclude in 15 seconds on page 7. If we do not do our jobs, page 7 will result. Political Islam will take over, and they'll ultimately kill most of the reds, the whites, and the blues, and the whole world will look like Syria and Iraq. A killing field where every terror organization in the history of the world shows up and kills each other. and we get killed along with them. We cannot allow page 7 to happen. We must create and encourage our governments to move towards page 6. But it'll be one or the other, and this is why I say we're going to win or we're going to lose. I think we're going to win, but it's not easy. But that's the #1 task we all have as individuals, as parents and grandparents. Thank you very much for your time. It was an honor to be with all of you.
כן, תודה רבה. אתה לקחת אותנו לשנת 2068, יותר מה שאנחנו הלכנו. אנחנו הסתכלנו רק על שנת 100. יורם.
Thank you, Ken. You took us to 2068, further than what we're now going to do. We are taking you all down to 2048.